Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Lacking in light, not bright or harsh. A dim light beside the bed. Switch. A car's headlights, from a higher to a lower beam. Make dim by comparison or conceal. Slow to learn or understand. Lacking intellectual acuity. Never met anyone quite so dim. Lacking clarity or distinctness. A dim figure in the distance. Become vague or indistinct. Offering little or no hope. Took a dim view of things. Made dim or less bright. The dimmed house lights brought a hush of anticipation. Become dim or lusterless. The lights dimmed and the curtain rose. Make dim or lusterless. Time had dimmed the silver. Lacking in light, not bright or harsh. Subdued lights and soft music. Not brilliant or glaring. Subdued lighting. Restrained in style or quality. In a softened tone. A subdued whisper. Quieted and brought under control. Children were subdued and silent. Appear to move downward. The sun dipped below the horizon. Switch. A car's headlights, from a higher to a lower beam. Dip into a liquid while eating. A sudden sharp decrease in some quantity. A dip in prices. Immerse briefly into a liquid so as to wet, coat, or saturate. Dip the garment into the cleaning solution. A thief who steals from the pockets or purses of others in public places. Dip into a liquid. He dipped into the pool. Physics. The angle that a magnetic needle makes with the plane of the horizon. A brief swim in water. A brief immersion. A candle that is made by repeated dipping in a pool of wax or tallow. A depression in an otherwise level surface. There was a dip in the road. A gymnastic exercise on the parallel bars in which the body is lowered and raised by bending and straightening the arms. Go down momentarily. Prices dipped. Immerse in a disinfectant solution. Dip the sheep. Lower briefly. She dipped her knee. Place candle wicks into hot, liquid wax. Plunge one's hand or a receptacle into a container. He dipped into his pocket. Scoop up by plunging one's hand or a ladle below the surface. Dip water out of a container. Slope downwards. Our property dips towards the river. Stain an object by immersing it in a liquid. Take a small amount from. I had to dip into my savings to buy him this present. Tasty mixture or liquid into which bite-sized foods are dipped. Something intended to misrepresent the true nature of an activity. The holding company was just a blind. Make dim by comparison or conceal. Unable to see. A person is blind to the extent that he must devise alternative techniques to do efficiently those things he would do with sight if he had normal vision. Not based on reason or evidence. Blind hatred. A protective covering that keeps things out or hinders sight. They had just moved in and had not put up blinds yet. A hiding place sometimes used by hunters, especially duck hunters. He waited impatiently in the blind. Make blind by putting the eyes out. The criminals were punished and blinded. People who have severe visual impairments, considered as a group. He spent hours reading to the blind. Render unable to see. Unable or unwilling to perceive or understand. Blind to a lover's faults. Hard to pass through because of dense growth. Dense vegetation. Slow to learn or understand. Lacking intellectual acuity. So dense he never understands anything I say to him. Permitting little if any light to pass through because of denseness of matter. Dense smoke. Having high relative density or specific gravity. Dense as lead. Darkened with overcast. A dull sky. Make numb or insensitive. Become less interesting or attractive. So lacking in interest as to cause mental weariness. A dull play. Slow to learn or understand. Lacking intellectual acuity. Although dull at classical learning, at mathematics he was uncommonly quick. Being or made softer or less loud or clear. The dull boom of distant breaking waves. Deaden, a sound or noise, especially by rapping. Not clear and resonant. Sounding as if striking with or against something relatively soft. The dull thud. Make dull or blunt. Too much cutting dulls the knife's edge. Of business, not active or brisk. Business is dull, or slow. Become dull or lusterless in appearance. Lose shine or brightness. The varnished table top dulled with time. Blunted in responsiveness or sensibility. A dull gaze. Emitting or reflecting very little light. A dull glow. Lacking in liveliness or animation. He was so dull at parties. Make dull in appearance. Age had dulled the surface. Make less lively or vigorous. Middle age dulled her appetite for travel. Not having a sharp edge or point. The knife was too dull to be of any use. Not keenly felt. A dull throbbing. Of color, very low in saturation, highly diluted. Dull greens and blues. Unable to speak because of hereditary deafness. Slow to learn or understand. Lacking intellectual acuity. Dumb officials make some really dumb decisions. Temporarily incapable of speaking. Struck dumb. Lacking the power of human speech. Dumb animals. Lacking in insight or discernment. Too obtuse to grasp the implications of his behavior. Slow to learn or understand. Lacking intellectual acuity. He was either normally stupid or being deliberately obtuse. Of a leaf shape, rounded at the apex. Of an angle, between 90 and 180 degrees. Cause to proceed more slowly. The illness slowed him down. Of timepieces. The clock is almost an hour slow. Without speed, slow, is sometimes used informally for slowly. He spoke slowly. So lacking in interest as to cause mental weariness. Slow to learn or understand. Lacking intellectual acuity. Worked with the slow students. Become slow or slower. Production slowed. Lose velocity. Move more slowly. Of business, not active or brisk. Business is dull, or slow. At a slow tempo. The band played a slow waltz. Not moving quickly, taking a comparatively long time. A slow walker. Used of timepieces, indicating a time earlier than the correct time. The clock is slow. Weak and likely to lose consciousness. Suddenly felt faint from the pain. Deficient in magnitude. Barely perceptible. Lacking clarity or brightness or loudness, etc. A faint outline. Lacking conviction or boldness or courage. Faint heart ne'er one fair lady. Pass out from weakness, physical or emotional distress due to a loss of blood supply to the brain. Lacking strength or vigor. Damning with faint praise. Lacking clarity or distinctness. Only a faint recollection. A spontaneous loss of consciousness caused by insufficient blood to the brain. Indistinctly understood or felt or perceived. A faint clue to the origin of the mystery. Lacking in substance. Strange fancies of unreal and shadowy worlds. Lacking clarity or distinctness. Shadowy figures in the gloom. Filled with shade. We sat on rocks in a shadowy cove. Not clearly expressed or understood. Their descriptions of human behavior become vague, dull, and unclear. Lacking clarity or distinctness. Saw a vague outline of a building through the fog. Not precisely limited, determined, or distinguished. Vague feelings of sadness. Thin and weak. A wispy little fellow with small hands and feet. Lacking clarity or distinctness. A few wispy memories of childhood. Make a smudge on. Soil by smudging. Make dim or indistinct. The fog blurs my vision. Become glassy. Lose clear vision. Make unclear, indistinct, or blurred. A hazy or indistinct representation. It happened so fast it was just a blur. Become vague or indistinct. The distinction between the two theories blurred. To make less distinct or clear. The haze blurs the hills. A blemish made by dirt. Become vague or indistinct. A disparaging remark. It is difficult for a woman to understand a man's sensitivity to any slur on his virility. Music. A curved line spanning notes that are to be played legato. Play smoothly or legato. The pianist slurred the most beautiful passage in the sonata. Speak disparagingly of, e.g., make a racial slur. Your comments are slurring your coworkers. Utter indistinctly. Make or become black. The smoke blackened the ceiling. Popular child actress of the 1930s, born in 1928. Used of conduct or character, deserving or bringing disgrace or shame. Man has written one of his blackest records as a destroyer on the oceanic islands. The quality or state of the achromatic color of least lightness, bearing the least resemblance to white. Extremely dark. A black moonless night. British chemist who identified carbon dioxide and who formulated the concepts of specific heat and latent heat, 1728 to 1799. Stemming from evil characteristics or forces, wicked or dishonorable. Black deeds. Of the face, made black especially as with suffused blood. A face black with fury. Soiled with dirt or soot. With feet black from playing outdoors. Distributed or sold illicitly. The black economy pays no taxes. Total absence of light. In the black of night. Offering little or no hope. The future looked black. Of events, having extremely unfortunate or dire consequences, bringing ruin. A person with African ancestry. Harshly ironic or sinister. Black humor. Being of the achromatic color of maximum darkness, having little or no hue owing to absorption of almost all incident light. Black leather jackets. Black clothing, worn as a sign of mourning. The widow wore black. Board games, the darker pieces. Marked by anger or resentment or hostility. Black looks. Of coffee, without cream or sugar. Of intelligence operations, deliberately misleading. Black propaganda. Of or belonging to a racial group especially of sub-Saharan African origin. A great people, a black people, injected new meaning and dignity into the veins of civilization. Providing no shelter or sustenance. The bleak treeless regions of the high Andes. Offering little or no hope. Prospects were bleak. Unpleasantly cold and damp. Bleak winds of the North Atlantic. Made dim or less bright. The dimmed house lights brought a hush of anticipation. The time after sunset and before sunrise while it is dark outside. Stemming from evil characteristics or forces, wicked or dishonorable. Darth Vader of the dark side. Absence of light or illumination. Causing dejection. The dark days of the war. Absence of moral or spiritual values. The powers of darkness. Lacking enlightenment or knowledge or culture. The Dark Ages. Marked by difficulty of style or expression. Much that was dark is now quite clear to me. An unenlightened state. He was in the dark concerning their intentions. Showing a brooding ill humor. A dark scowl. An unilluminated area. He moved off into the darkness. Brunette, used of hair or skin or eyes. Dark eyes. Devoid of or deficient in light or brightness, shadowed or black. Sitting in a dark corner. Not giving performances, closed. The theater is dark on Mondays. Secret. Keep it dark. Used of color, having a dark hue. Dark green. Lacking intelligence. In a state of mental numbness, especially as resulting from shock. Was stupid from fatigue. A person who is not very bright. The economy, stupid. Lacking or marked by lack of intellectual acuity. Not clearly defined or easy to perceive or understand. Indistinct shapes in the gloom. Certain to fail. The situation is hopeless. Informal to emphasize how bad it is, beyond hope of management or reform. She handed me a hopeless jumble of papers. Of a person unable to do something skillfully. I'm hopeless at mathematics. Without hope because there seems to be no possibility of comfort or success. In an agony of hopeless grief. Used of headlights. Following with low beam headlights. Increase or decrease in intensity. Become dark or darker. The sky darkened. Make dark or darker. Darken a room. Tarnish or stain. A scandal that darkened the family's good name. Lessen in force or effect. Reduce the level or intensity or size or scope of. Destroy property or hinder normal operations. Become weaker. The prisoner's resistance weakened after 7 days. Lessen the strength of. The fever weakened his body. Lay aside, abandon, or leave for another. The car changed lanes. Cause to change, make different, cause a transformation. The discussion has changed my thinking about the issue. Exchange or replace with another, usually of the same kind or category. He changed his name. An event that occurs when something passes from one state or phase to another. The change was intended to increase sales. Become different in some particular way, without permanently losing one's or its former characteristics or essence. Her mood changes in accordance with the weather. Give to, and receive from, one another. Would you change places with me? Become deeper in tone. His voice began to change when he was 12 years old. Change from one vehicle or transportation line to another. She changed in Chicago on her way to the East Coast. A difference that is usually pleasant. It is a refreshing change to meet a woman mechanic. A different or fresh set of clothes. She brought a change in her overnight bag. A relational difference between states, especially between states before and after some event. He attributed the change to their marriage. A thing that is different. He inspected several changes before selecting one. Change clothes. Put on different clothes. Coins of small denomination regarded collectively. He had a pocketful of change. Money received in return for its equivalent in a larger denomination or a different currency. He got change for a 20 and used it to pay the taxi driver. Remove or replace the coverings of. Father had to learn how to change the baby. The action of changing something. The change of government had no impact on the economy. The balance of money received when the amount you tender is greater than the amount due. I paid with a 20 and pocketed the change. The result of alteration or modification. There were marked changes in the lining of the lungs. Undergo a change. Become different in essence, losing one's or its original nature. She changed completely as she grew older. Remove by or as if by rubbing or erasing. Remove completely from recognition or memory. Efface the memory of the time in the camps. Make inconspicuous. Efface oneself. Make undecipherable or imperceptible by obscuring or concealing. Mark for deletion, rub off, or erase. Remove completely from recognition or memory. Reduced to nothingness. Do away with completely, without leaving a trace.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.